She offered him $50,000 as a joke, never imagining it would lead to a shocking confrontation that would change everything. Jessica Carter, a confident executive at the top of her game, mocked Raymond, the humble janitor, thinking he had nothing to offer. She casually offered him money to design something like the electric car she drove, unaware that Raymond was the true mastermind behind its technology. Raymond, the quiet janitor, held the key to the very innovation that powered Jessica's company. What happened next was a business showdown that shattered everything Jessica thought she knew about power, success, and who truly holds the cards. You won't believe how this story ends. Trust me, it will hit you right in the heart and make you rethink everything about ambition. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and like this video now. You won't want to miss the shocking twist coming next. Share this with anyone who's ever underestimated someone. They'll never see it coming. Imagine being so sure of your position in life, your power, your success, that you don't even think twice about making a joke. But what if that joke had the power to change everything? The morning sun gleamed brightly off the sleek silver body of Jessica Carter's electric car as she confidently stepped out and walked toward the building. The hum of the busy city surrounded her, but Jessica didn't notice. She had her mind on something far more important. She was on top of the world. Jessica had worked tirelessly to reach her position as a high-flying executive at one of the most innovative tech companies in the city. She was the epitome of confidence, someone who had cracked the code to success. Every decision she made was sharp, calculated, and executed flawlessly. She was always the one in control of any situation, never the one to doubt herself or her place in the corporate world. That day, however, she was feeling especially bold. It had been a string of successful projects, and the company was about to launch a new product that she was leading. There was nothing that could bring her down. At lunch, as the office buzzed with chatter, Jessica leaned back in her chair, admiring the attention she was getting from her colleagues. She had just arrived in her latest purchase, a cutting-edge electric car that symbolized her success. With its flawless design and innovative tech, it was a clear statement to the world. Jessica Carter had arrived. And then, as if on cue, the janitor walked past. He was an older man, graying hair, weathered face, dressed in his faded blue uniform. Raymond had always been quiet, going about his work, cleaning the halls and fixing minor issues without asking for anything in return. He was the kind of man who never drew attention to himself, but Jessica never gave him much thought either. To her, he was just another invisible worker. In that moment, Jessica, feeling more invincible than ever, couldn't resist making a joke. "I'll give you $50,000 if you could design something like this," she said, gesturing toward her shiny new electric car. Her voice carried through the lunchroom as everyone turned their attention to Raymond. The room erupted with laughter. It was a harmless jest, a display of Jessica's dominance. She was on top, and in her mind, no one could touch her. The idea that someone like Raymond could ever create something on par with the technology she flaunted was absurd. To Jessica, it was just another example of how far ahead she was from the people around her. But what Jessica didn't realize as the laughter echoed through the room was that she had just unknowingly opened the door to a world that could completely shift her understanding of power and her place in it. That joke would have been forgotten by everyone, if not for one thing. A few weeks had passed since Jessica's offhand remark to Raymond, the janitor. At first, the incident had seemed insignificant, a brief moment of laughter, a joke she'd made to assert her power. But it wasn't something she thought about again. After all, in her mind, Raymond was just the janitor. What could he possibly have to offer? Yet, over time, Jessica began to notice him around the office more frequently. Raymond had always been there, silently going about his work. He wasn't the kind of person who drew attention to himself, and most people didn't think twice about him. But now, something was different. Raymond had a quiet presence. He moved with purpose, but never rushed. His demeanor was unshakable, almost as if he were always observing the world around him. Even though he was in his 60s, he carried himself with a kind of subtle confidence that few noticed. But Jessica, always wrapped up in her own world, hadn't given it much thought until recently. She had always seen him as the janitor. After all, he was just another cog in the machine, someone who cleaned up after the real workers, the ones who mattered. But the more she saw him, the more she began to wonder. There was something about Raymond's presence that she couldn't quite shake. And then one afternoon, just as Jessica was sitting at her desk going through reports, the unexpected happened. Raymond walked into her office. It was unusual. He never came into the office unless it was to fix something or take out the trash. She looked up, her eyebrows furrowing as he approached her desk. He was holding something in his hands, papers neatly stacked. Without a word, he placed them on her desk and slid them toward her. Jessica, momentarily caught off guard, looked up at him with confusion. "Raymond?" she asked, her voice laced with surprise. He didn't respond immediately. He simply stared at her with a calm expression. There was no smile, no hint of sarcasm, just an unwavering look that seemed to hold some deeper meaning. Finally, Raymond spoke, his voice steady and unbothered. "You remember that $50,000 offer, right?" he asked. Jessica couldn't help but chuckle. She thought it was another joke, another quirk of his that might have been his way of getting back at her in a playful manner. "Of course. It was a joke, Raymond. You know that," she said, dismissing the moment. Raymond didn't respond with laughter. Instead, he smiled faintly, a small, knowing smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. His gaze remained locked on hers as he calmly spoke again. "Well, I've got something better than your joke. Something that could make you wish you hadn't made it." The tone in his voice was different this time. There was no sarcasm, no playful edge. His words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Jessica's amusement quickly evaporated, replaced by an unfamiliar discomfort. She glanced down at the papers he'd left on her desk. The weight of the moment began to sink in. This wasn't just some harmless jest. Something was happening here, something far bigger than she could have ever imagined. For the first time, Jessica realized that Raymond might not be who she thought he was. But what did he mean by something better? Jessica, like most people, didn't know what she had just stepped into. But Raymond wasn't just a janitor. He was something else entirely. As Jessica's eyes scanned the documents Raymond had left on her desk, the weight of what she was holding slowly began to sink in. At first, the papers appeared ordinary, just standard business documents, perhaps some contracts or tech specs. But as she flipped through them, her fingers froze on a page that made her stomach twist. The papers weren't scribbles, designs, or project notes. They were blueprints. The kind of blueprints that tech companies fought over, the kind that changed industries and altered the course of innovation. Jessica's mind raced, her thoughts becoming a blur as she skimmed the detailed diagrams and intricate designs. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized what she was looking at. It was the design of her electric car. The car that she had proudly flaunted around the office for weeks, boasting about its advanced technology, its sleek, futuristic design. The same car she had mocked Raymond for never being able to design himself. And then it hit her like a thunderclap, the realization that chilled her to the bone. The design, the technology, the system that powered the very vehicle she adored. It wasn't hers at all. It wasn't the result of the company's R&D department or a team of elite engineers. No, it all traced back to Raymond. The man she had mocked, the janitor she had brushed off, was the true inventor of the technology that made her car so special. As Jessica turned the page, her eyes widened even further. There, boldly printed at the top of the patent documents, was a name she had never expected to see. Raymond's name. His name was right there on the patent, his signature, his intellectual property. It was all his. The very janitor she had dismissed as unimportant was the one who held the rights to the groundbreaking technology she had spent so much time showing off. The weight of this truth struck Jessica hard. She felt a mix of embarrassment and disbelief flood through her. The car she had been bragging about was powered by technology Raymond had designed years ago. And all this time, she had thought of him as nothing more than a background figure, a man in a faded blue uniform, cleaning up after others. But Raymond wasn't just cleaning up. He had created something that would revolutionize the industry. And Jessica had unknowingly laughed at the very person who held the future in his hands. The silence in the room felt heavy, almost suffocating. Jessica suddenly realized that this wasn't just about a joke gone wrong. She had inadvertently mocked the very man who had the power to change everything, someone who could bring the tech industry to its knees. Jessica knew this was no longer a joke. It was a business showdown. The following day, Jessica found herself tangled in a web of disbelief and uncertainty. She had spent the entire night trying to make sense of the revelation about Raymond, the man she had so carelessly dismissed as just a janitor. Her mind raced, questions swirling. How could he have possibly designed the car she had been bragging about? What had she missed? How had she, in her arrogance, failed to see the true genius behind the technology? Determined to get answers, Jessica arranged a meeting with Raymond. But this wasn't going to be a casual conversation. She wasn't sure what to expect, and the stakes now felt higher than ever. What had once seemed like a harmless interaction had now escalated into something far bigger, something that could affect her career, her company, and everything she'd worked for. They met outside the office, in the midst of the usual hustle and bustle of the busy street. The sounds of traffic, honking horns, and murmurs of pedestrians filled the air, but the atmosphere around them was still intense. Jessica stood across from Raymond, her navy blue suit sharp and immaculate, a stark contrast to the quiet calm that radiated from him. Her nerves were on edge, every instinct telling her she needed to figure out what was going on, but she had no idea how to proceed. Raymond, however, seemed unbothered by the weight of the situation. His posture was relaxed, yet there was a quiet intensity in his eyes. He stood with a calmness that unnerved Jessica, especially as she struggled to process the magnitude of what she had stumbled into. Behind them, the silver electric car sat with its hood open, a clear visual reminder of what was at stake. The complex machinery that powered the car lay exposed, and its intricate systems were a testament to the technology Raymond had built. It was hard to ignore the reality that this was his creation. A group of young executives standing off to the side watched the scene unfold from a distance. They exchanged curious glances, unsure of what they were witnessing. The confrontation seemed to hold their attention, but it was clear they didn't understand the full weight of what was being said. Raymond finally broke the silence, his voice steady and unwavering. "That $50,000 you offer me wasn't a joke, Jessica," he said, each word carrying weight. "I've been working on this for decades. This car, everything about it, belongs to me." The words hung in the air like a bombshell. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. How had she so badly underestimated him? How had she, in her blind confidence, failed to see the truth? This man, the janitor, the worker she had mocked, was the one who held the keys to everything she had come to claim as her own. But Raymond wasn't finished. His gaze didn't waver as he spoke the next words that sent a chill down her spine. "You can keep the car, but you'll never own what's inside it. Not without me." For the first time, Jessica realized how far out of her depth she was. The joke she had made, the superiority she had flaunted, it all seemed foolish now. This was no longer about a casual jest. This was a business negotiation, and Raymond wasn't someone she could easily dismiss anymore. This was his game, and Jessica had only just realized she was playing by his rules. The weight of his words hit Jessica like a freight train. The man she had laughed at and belittled held the future of the company in his hands, and now he was making his terms clear. Jessica couldn't afford to make another mistake. The question was, how would she respond? Sometimes, life has a way of reminding you that you don't know everything, even if you think you do. For the next few days, Jessica couldn't shake the weight of what had transpired. Her mind was a whirlwind of disbelief and regret. She replayed the moment over and over, unable to fully process how she had managed to ignore the truth right in front of her. Raymond, the janitor she had mocked just weeks earlier, was the key to the future of her company. What had once seemed like a harmless joke now felt like the biggest mistake of her career. As it turned out, Raymond had patented several pieces of technology long before Jessica's company had even conceived of the car she had so proudly shown off. The very features she had flaunted, features that made the car the pinnacle of innovation. belonged to Raymond. His quiet work behind the scenes had led to the breakthroughs that powered the entire vehicle. His patents were the backbone of the company's success, and Jessica had unwittingly made light of it all. Jessica tried to focus on the business at hand, but it was impossible. Every moment she spent in the office only heightened the sense of dread hanging over her. She knew she had to make it right, but she had no idea how to begin. Finally, Raymond's terms came in, and they were nothing like what she expected. Instead of seeking revenge or making wild demands, Raymond made an offer. Jessica's company could continue using his technology, but it would come at a cost. The company would have to pay him royalties for every unit sold, a sum far greater than the $50,000 Jessica had so flippantly offered. The amount stunned her. It was far beyond what she could have imagined. But Raymond wasn't finished. As if that weren't enough, he added one final condition that would change the course of her career and the company's future forever. Raymond wanted a seat on the board of directors. The janitor-turned-inventor now wanted to be a driving force behind the very company he had quietly helped build. The thought seemed impossible at first. How could someone who had spent decades in the background, cleaning floors and fixing minor issues, now be at the forefront of a tech empire? But Raymond's vision, his knowledge, and his role in the company were undeniable. Jessica, humbled by the realization of just how wrong she had been, had no choice but to agree to his terms. The company's future depended on it. And so, in the end, Jessica learned the hard way that appearances could be deceiving. Raymond wasn't just the janitor. He was the one who would now call the shots. The quiet, humble man she had underestimated had proven that sometimes the greatest power lies in the most unexpected places. As for Jessica, she would never again make the mistake of underestimating anyone. Life had a way of teaching lessons that were impossible to ignore. If this story left you speechless, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any more jaw-dropping moments. Like this video and turn on the notification bell to stay updated with the most unexpected twists. Trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. It could change the way you think about success. Share this with your friends and let them see why you should never underestimate anyone. See you in the next story.